when we think about drought here kind of in the middle of winter. Yeah, we've had some rain. It seems wet and cold. Like, how could we be in drought? Things look kind of green even for winter time. But if we look at overall averages of rain that we've had, we're well below average for many months now. So we have, continuing entry into deeper stages of drought. But we're fortunate that, because of the moderate rains over the last few months, that decline of water levels and spring flow into deeper drought has been very slow. We actually see spring flow at Barton Springs is going up just slightly over the last few months, whereas the water levels in Lovelady are declining, but very, very slowly. And we can attribute all that to these moderate rains that we've had. Even though they're less than average, they're just slowing down our entry into drought. So now the question is, where might we be heading, if we're at this critical stage drought, and kind of wondering, well, how long will it be before we get into exceptional stage? And it all depends on, whether we have moderate rains or heavy rains or very low rains, and we'll speed up our entry into the next stage of drought. But as we look further down the road and try and think about what could be the big picture of causing our drought and what could end the drought, we really look at the El Niño, La Niña cycles. And we are in La Niña's cycle, which usually brings about drier weather, and we've been there for the past couple of years. But the experts that work with those conditions are saying we should be heading toward more neutral between El Niño and La Niña in the next few months, and perhaps by late spring or summer we could be seeing a return to El Niño, which brings about wetter conditions for the most part in central Texas. But those are all uncertainties, whether El Niño will develop. We can get into neutral conditions and still see that we are not getting the rains, or we continue with drought. So El Niño is no guarantee, but it's certainly a lot better chances of more rain that could end our drought, or at least just decrease the level of drought that we're in. So for the moderate amount of rain that we've seen, we're definitely not getting creek flow going. Because once we start getting the creeks flowing, which also brings about some flooding localized or more widespread, that's the key, that we're getting a lot of water into the aquifer and likely to end the drought. But these moderate rains bring about very little runoff. We see almost no creek flow. So we're just seeing a little bit of water seeping into the ground, maybe finding some sinkholes that make it to the aquifer and are holding us more or less steady at this point. So with that in mind, we still want to remind the users of the aquifer, whoever they may be, to try and minimize the use. The less we're pumping from the aquifer, the more we'll be able to maintain there and maintain spring flow and water levels in wells.